Sam Seder on the Majority Report on the phone. It is a pleasure to welcome to this program Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. I'm sure you're all familiar. Cenk, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Sam. I appreciate you having me on.
What did you get? 150,000 hits so far on the video about your announcement of leaving MSNBC?
Something along those lines. There was a couple of different videos. There was like part 1, part 2. When you add all those up, somewhere between 200 and 250,000.
Yeah, and that's just in, 24 hours. I mean, we'll see where that ends up. But, all right, I got a lot of questions for you. Appreciate your coming on. Cliff Schechter sends his regards and his admiration for you. I got some questions that we got on Twitter a lot that I want to ask you. But let me just start with the one that I'm trying to ask. Now, I assume everybody. I talked about this on the program yesterday. I assume everybody knows the story. You had been hosting MSNBC Live for 6 months or so after being sort of a rover contributor there. And they basically called you into the executive offices, said, we want you to go back to a roving thing. There's been reports. Were you offered a weekend show?
Yes.
Okay, and so you were offered a weekend show as well, and they were going to give you even more money than you're making now, and you said no. Just quickly, just reiterate for us why you said no.
Well, we had this conversation about 3 months ago with the head of MSNBC where I was told that, MSNBC's establishment and we'd like to be outsiders, but we're insiders, and people in Washington are not happy with your tone. There's been a lot of back and forth in the press about whether I had a fair interpretation of that. The official MSNBC line is that they were referring to a conversation Phil Griffin was with a brooker of mine and how they had problems with my body language. It's a curious way to state that you shouldn't move your arms as much, to give this whole long spiel on insiders, outsiders, the establishment, and people in Washington. So you interpret that as you will. And I had very good ratings, beat MSNBC from last year, which is definitely something they consider very much, and that was Ed Schultz's program that they were so impressed with that they promoted him, and beat CNN rather handily. And so when there was no real reason given for
do you and
move,
Ed Schultz really have that difference of body body gestures or whatever? I mean, honestly.
I mean, I can't see it, but I don't know.
I mean, I think listen. The bottom line is, I mean, I think, and it's clear that you came from an outsider, and even more outsider than even radio, but dispositionally you're outsider. I mean, we've talked about this over the years because we've had many conversations, both on and off air. Your political leanings. This is the most interesting aspect of this to me. Your political leanings are not particularly, I would not classify you as any more to the left than other people on that network. In fact, I would say that there are people who are probably, in some respects, more liberal than you. Wouldn't you agree with that? More or less?
Yeah, but I definitely would, Sam, but there's a really important distinction, right? Which is that not how liberal are you, but how do you handle the Democratic Party, right? So, in this political climate, I'm considered very progressive, right?
Right.
And I don't think the president is progressive at all.
Right.
So I have no problem pointing that out. If someone is more liberal or more progressive than I am, but does not point that out as much, well, that's a different story.
Right. I mean, the key here is,
beating up
are you an
Republicans
insider or an outsider? Are you part of the establishment or are you not? And I think in this instance, when you attack the establishment, there are plenty of people who self-identify as being very liberal, but they are so attached to the establishment that they will not criticize because they want access. And, as I say those words, there are certain contributors on that network that come to mind. And I've mentioned them in the past. I don't need to mention them again. So let me ask you this: do you feel like you have completely shut the door? Do you think you have access to get on MSNBC again? Because I think one of the things that I'm curious as to whether or not you felt that when you made that video.
I'd be surprised if I was back on MSNBC. Very surprised.
Yeah, so I think that that's the thing that I think I respect the most about what you did, is that it showed a tremendous amount of integrity to your audience, to yourself, and frankly it took a tremendous amount of balls, or two really big ones. I don't know. I don't want to break any news here that you have multiple cojones, but it was very impressive. I mean, just very impressive, and. I'm not alone. I think that sentiment is out there, and you showed a lot of integrity. But let me ask you. Go ahead.
Thanks for saying that, Sam. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate people saying that. And look, people have to realize why it's hard to resist the temptation and the lure of that establishment. Because where else are you going to go? You're certainly not going to go to Fox News, right? And it's not like CNN is putting on any progressive programming. So your options become smaller and smaller. And I think that really affects a lot of people, And I think that they think, well, what are we going to do? And so, don't get me wrong, I'm in a unique position because I've got the Young Turks. So I do have somewhere else to go. So that allowed me to be able to do that easier, right? So take away some credit from me in that sense. But other people don't have other places to go, right? So, God, that institutional pressure is enormous.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this, I think we had dinner. I don't remember when it was exactly, but that was one of the things I think that you were always aware of, is that you had the Young Turks in your back pocket. And that was, in many ways, I think that, going into that situation, knowing that you had the Young Turks there, you could afford, in some respects, to be bold. But, with that said, I know that you have a new child, and or a young child, I should say, and that it's impressive any way you slice it. But let me go to some Twitter questions. Cenk, do you think 100% unbiased political free speech has become incompatible with corporate-owned and sponsored TV news media?
I honestly think it's a little bit more nuanced than that, right? Because I think Rachel, for example, does a great show. I think Dylan Ratigan is unbelievable. He's really nonpartisan, and he definitely takes it to the establishment. But he's on a razor's edge, and the reason I say it's more nuanced is that Rachel, through very patient and smart, skills there, wound up having larger and larger ratings, and hence more and more power. And now she's achieved a great deal of independence. So it's possible, but it's really, really hard. And my main point, I think, is that it is not because of management that she has that independence and that progressive show, but in spite of management that she has.
Right.
And so, by the way, and if you're a person who's coming in fresh and management has not already given you a contract and hence, tied their own career to you to some degree, it's much harder, right? Or it's easier for them to act against you, harder for them to act against someone who they've given multiple contracts to. So you've got to keep it real. That there's all of that political stuff in the background.
That was from Don't Be a Putz. Amy Sue Farmer on Twitter. Any chance Cenk will get his own show on current TV? I did notice last night when you were on Olbermann, he said something to the effect of like, we'll be in touch soon.
Yeah, everybody's talking about that. We'll see. I have no idea. But we're not in talks yet. So there's nothing imminently brewing. Let's put it that way.
Mr. White Treecom, where to now? Well, I don't know what that where to now, Fearless Leaders.
Well, actually, Sam, I want to address that because, look, a lot of people think you lost your job and you're like, I'm unemployed or something. No, my main job has always been the Young Turks. Even when I was on MSNBC, even when I was doing 6 o'clock every single day, I consider that my side job. My main job is the Young Turks. We have over 1 million views a day. That's larger than any MSNBC show. So where to now is back to my regular job, which I've been doing all along anyway. So, and by the way, we might have exciting news about that in a couple of weeks too. So we'll see how that develops.
Break it here.
Yeah, I'd love to, but we don't have it yet. So.
Let's see. CPBKNY. How about why does Radigan kiss Coburn's ass? I don't know if I agree with that, but go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Look, I really, really respect Dylan, and I think what he sees in Coburn is a guy who's willing to buck his own party, and he really gets jazzed up about that, right? And he's right. Look, Coburn is maddening. There's no question that, he will turn around and be, join the party line 9 out of 10 times. He's massively conservative, etc. But at the same time, to be fair, he's also the guy who demanded that they include tax increases in the overall bargain, right? Now, his own plan cuts $9 trillion. It's a disaster, right? But there is something about Coburn that is anti-establishment. I think that's what appeals to Rafi.
Yeah, I mean, he is bucking. He is basically saying "F you" to Grover Norquist, and there's certainly been no other Republican who's been willing to do that.
Right, and that takes some courage, and that takes some degree of saying, hey, you know what, I don't care what my contributors say, who are all, of course, exclusively rich, either people or corporations who say, look, you will cut our taxes under any and all circumstances. So anyone who even takes a little bite out of that, in this current context, deserves some degree of credit, given that Coburn is massively conservative and we disagree with him, but still he should get some degree of credit for that.
Joni Gentian says, what happened to the other two on the Young Turks? I guess Jill and Ben, maybe? Who are they talking about? That was a long time ago.
Yeah. No, but, look, that's the thing. From our perspective, we know everything that's going on, but from the perspective of the audience, they either listen to us on Sirius Satellite Radio or Air America, or they're, just started watching online. So they all know a bunch of different Young Turks because we've been doing the show for 9 years. So in the beginning, it was me, Ben, and Jill. Ben Mankiewicz is host of Turner Classic Movies on the weekends. He was briefly host of At the Movies, replacing Roger Ebert. And right now, he is the host of many of our TYT network shows, like What the Flick, which is a movie review show on YouTube, TYT Sports, and actually he's doing the Young Turks with me today. Jill Pike is communications director for Third Way.
Third Way? What?
I know. It's just about to say, I still love her, but I'm not sure, not sure that's an organization I agree with. But
talk about the prodigal daughter. Jeez. Wow. All right, I want you to address this. Anger Farm, consider me part of the Cenk backlash. If he had played by the rules, we'd been spared the awful Sharpton. Put aside the awful Sharpton thing. To be honest with you, I've never even seen him host a show. But what do you say to people who say, Cenk, if you were willing to play by the rules, if you were to, make some non-material changes as to what you were doing in tone and this and that, or even if you went, to the weekend show, you'd still be allowing for access to people on your shows. I mean, you had people on those shows that, frankly, I don't know that any other hosts will have on MSNBC. What do you say to that?
Well, I actually think that's a great question, and it has a multiple-part answer. First, on the Sharpton issue, in the press they've been talking about, Sharpton got better ratings or something. First, I don't know where they got that from. Second of all, the decision was made at the end of June. Sharpton had not filled in for me almost at all. He'd filled in one day when I was sick. All the stuff that he did fill in is irrelevant. They'd already made the decision. So that was not the factor at all. Second of all, the way he framed that question, it seems like I turned down 6 o'clock. No, Sharpton is going to be part of 6 o'clock, it appears, no matter what I did. So that wasn't the question at all. So don't blame me. But I have no view on Sharpton. I don't think that I don't think that's pertinent to what happened with me. Right.
Right. Well,
now
aside the Sharpton thing.
Right. Yeah. As to the question of like putting on progressive guests, which I love doing, and it's funny because a lot of times people will be like, "Who's that?" Like I brought on Baratunde Thurston, and they were like, "Bara who?" And Baratunde, great blogger, great comedian, editor of The Onion, obviously editor also of Jack and Jill Politics. And so I was very proud to bring on a voice like that, and you and Sarod on a regular basis, and just it goes on, right? But the critical reason that I took that into account. The critical reason I couldn't do it is because if I took the weekend job and and the contributor thing and kept on going, I felt that I couldn't tell the story, and I thought that this was a really important story to tell, right? Because, again, not a lot of people are in a position to be able to tell the story. One, they weren't on the inside. Two, if they are on the inside, they don't have a lot of choices to where to go, right? And this is a critical problem in our media, which is that I don't want to be over dramatic, but it's almost pointless if you're not challenging the government, if you're just accepting what they say and regurgitating it in one way or another. And I'm not saying that that's all they do at MSNBC, but if they are concerned about that and make decisions based on that, and by the way, it's not exclusive to MSNBC. I would be shocked if you didn't have the same ramifications on CNN, right? Then what's the point of the press? So what are you doing? Oh, you're delivering me the point of view of the Republicans and the Democrats. Who cares?
And so, I mean, do you think that the existence of current, not from a personal perspective, but in terms of that it allowed some some oxygen to criticize MSNBC? I mean, I was in a not terribly dissimilar situation at Air America, and Mark Green came to me and he said, "You're really going to enjoy the person who's going to replace you from 9 to noon. It's Lionel." And I was like, "Are you aware that Lionel's not even a liberal?" And he says, "Well, we're still a 70% liberal network." And, your doing this has made me sort of look back on that time and wonder if I should have actually gone quietly to the weekends at Air America and made a stink. But, part of it was that we were the only game in town at that time, and I didn't want to be part of slagging it because I thought it could still come back in some ways. I mean, do you think that the existence of current, never mind the fact that it may or may not offer any opportunities to you, like you say, the Young Turks is a massive platform in and of itself, but the idea that they're not necessarily the only game in town allowed for the space for this type of criticism?
I think, as a general principle, it definitely does. I think it's a great development because, first of all, the more progressive stations you have on, of course, the better because it allows for more progressive hosts and points of view, etc. But second of all, it creates a competition to kind of out-progressive one another, which is a fantastic competition. That's exactly the kind of competition we want. And look, I think oftentimes the management of MSNBC either makes this mistake or they're doing it on purpose. They confuse Democrats with progressives. They figure, well, if we're pro-Democrat, that covers it, right? But as you see in the current environment, that definitely does not cover it. I mean, the so-called Democratic president is talking about slashing Social Security and Medicare when the Republicans didn't even initially ask him to. It's unbelievable. And if you think you're supporting progressives by supporting President Obama because he calls himself a Democrat, I think that's a joke. And so if there's someone to the left saying, hey, wait a minute, those positions are not progressive, I think that helps everybody.
Yeah, I think there's an analogy here between that concept of veal pen that some people have charged that supposed liberal or progressive organizations allow themselves to sort of like be put in a box so that they maintain a seat at the table. It is a similar charge to what you're charging here. Is that they're willing to sell access sell off access? Because I don't think that anybody in MSNBC has a problem with specific political positions as much as they do with sort of maintaining certain relationships.
My sense of it is that's exactly right. Right? I don't think that anybody cares what is your position on Medicaid, right? But I think they care a lot as to whether the White House or the Democratic Party is going to continue to come on their air, continue to give them scoops, continue to work with them, especially as we head into an election. Rightly or wrongly, I think that they view that access as incredibly important and critical to what they think they have to do. I don't think it's critical at all, but obviously we disagree on that count. And I think, but once you're hooked on that access, you're done for, because then you lose your ability to critique that side effectively and honestly, and that's a terrible spot to be in, and certainly a spot I didn't want to be in.
Well, in these type of situations, I always quote Lexi Sales from a heyday back in British comedy. He said, what really sucks is when all your friends become friends with Phil Collins. You can't talk about how shitty his music is anymore. And you can disagree on Phil Collins. I don't. But that it seems like a similar dynamic. Cenk, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it. I know you're pretty busy these days.
Thank you for having me, Sam. Always great to talk to you.
All right, we'll be in touch. There you go. Maybe he'll be part of the Majority Report. All right, see you, Cenk.